I don't see you. There we go. Hello, and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Today, buckle in because Tom and I are going for an it's anti-wellness wankery ride of our lives because, bro, we are still living in 2016, 2017, when most coaches were known for comp prep or just teaching someone how to lose weight. So it's the whole notion of you sign up with a coach if you have this crazy ass goal, whether it's for weight loss, whether it's for getting on stage. People don't even know what coaches are really for. And it's just like, there is so much more to the coaching process than just weight loss. And if you only sign up with a coach to get you to to help you to lose weight there and then, kind of like if you listen back to the Mike Dollar podcast, he's just like, you're so used to buying something and immediately you get that book to read or that program to start doing. But when you start with a coach, most of the time, if you have a good coach, it shouldn't just start there and then immediately, because the whole purpose of the initial phase is to get to know you better, to introduce you to the process, the habits. But then we get questions kind of like, what phase am I in? Is this fat loss this? And then how long is this phase going to last? And Tom doesn't get these questions because he doesn't speak in phases, but here I am speaking in phases. And I kind of see it as two distinct phases. You're either in a fat loss phase or you're in an improvement phase, a building phase, let's get better phase. Because in fat loss, you're not really improving. You're not building anything at all. You're trying to maintain. You're fighting to keep the progress you make. You're fighting to keep the improvements that you make. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. And we already know people that struggle to see results, struggle to build muscle. Well, that's kind of the reality of what happens when you're not adequately fueling yourself for long enough, when you're depleting yourself of the nutrients that your body needs, so to speak. So it takes forceful effort to build muscle, forceful effort to see improvements. And a lot of people get it wrong when it comes to building muscle. They focus on the wrong things when the most important thing is the effort and the intensity that you bring into the gym. But you do need to build a solid foundation before you do that. Because if you're just going to put forceful effort into a shaky foundation or a lack of foundation, then you're not giving yourself any real, I guess, if you think of a plane with a runway, you're not giving yourself a long enough runway to be able to safely land the plane, to be able to then take off and go visit wherever else. That's the reality if you're not building that strong foundation. And that strong foundation, you may not see the fruit on the trees until a couple of months down the road. But the thing is, if you don't plant that seed now and show up and do the short-term habits of plucking out the weeds, watering the seeds, doing the day in, day out work, you are not going to have a fruit tree. You are not going to have an apple tree. You are not going to have an oak tree. That shit takes time to build. And this is the thing with phases. There are no real distinct phases. Everything is fluid. Life is dynamic. And it's kind of why I hate the question, what should my macros be? From people that I don't even know, that aren't even clients. It's just like, well, I don't know. Just knowing your height and weight isn't enough. Just knowing what you're doing now and the results of what you're doing now isn't enough, technically, because it's like, what have you done before? A lot of people would say, I'm maintaining on 1,500 calories, when it's like, are you really maintaining on 1,500 calories? Because that to me is a suppressed metabolism. You're more likely should be maintaining around 1,800, 1,900 if you've built those foundations. You're living an active lifestyle. If you care about muscle, 1,500 calories is not your maintenance. It might be something you're struggling to lose weight on, but it's not maintenance calories. And if you've been down there for months and years without seeing the results that you want, get the fuck out of fat loss and trying to lose fat. It does not mean you are going to gain a bunch of fat. Oh, but if I stop dieting, I'm just going to gain weight. Well, no shit. You have more food in your stomach. You're better fueled. Your body is thriving. It's living life. If you are gaining fat for weeks and months and you really see it, you're not in maintenance anymore. Something in the equation is screwed up. And you need to look at that because you're putting yourself into a surplus. You do not just gain a shitload of fat in maintenance. And I know this makes it sound like there's a shitload of phases. And I'm going to let Tom kind of spiel on this. But maintenance, I don't even like calling it that. It's just like you're either with the intent or not with the intent, because I don't like the intent of fat loss, full stop. I like the actions of fat loss. But your intent is still performance. That way, if you look in the literature, when you're focused on performance metrics, when you're focused on health metrics, on showing up, on energy, on fueling yourself, but your actions are in line and your habits are in line with fat loss, you not only get better results, but you're able to stay the course for long enough to get those results. And it doesn't feel like a chore. And you don't rebound hard after it. So the intent should always be on performance, on health, on improving. But you're either with habits and actions in line with fat loss for a short, specific period of time, or your actions are in line with eating at least your maintenance calories or more. And that's a separate phase. They're two separate phases. There is nothing really else there. But the reason why I clicked record on this is because this is the part I got to when I started rambling to Tom to take over. And that was, yeah, but then some people start and they're not really starting in a phase and then they wonder what phase they're in. But it's like, but that's the thing. That initial phase, the phases in between, you don't need a label to be making progress, because habit formation, creating habits that are sustainable, creating habits that meld into your lifestyle seamlessly, which you do have to also take into consideration. They're not going to meld into your lifestyle seamlessly if you're not going to change your lifestyle a little bit at a time, because it's your lifestyle right now that got you to where you are. That's why you're stuck. That's why you're not happy with where you're at. That's why you're struggling to see progress. You feel weak. You're not getting anywhere that you want to be in the gym, anywhere that you want to be in your body composition, anywhere that you want to be in your mindset. You need to change your environment first. All of these things take time to change, because if you just pull a plug out, decide that you're going to revamp everything, and then life starts you press play on life again, it's going to go back to disorder, and then you're back to where you started. Monologue done, take over.
Yeah. So you said something there that I want to ask you about, but I just kind of wanted to pick up on something you said a little while ago. I really like this distinction between your maintenance and a calorie target that you're struggling to lose weight on, because they're definitely not the same thing. We see it all of the time where a client or a person will come to a coach and say, I'm eating 1,400 calories and I'm maintaining, so that must be my maintenance. And the secret is, if you're maintaining your weight on 1,400 calories, you're not on 1,400 calories. What tends to happen is when people put their calories far too low, your activity levels reduce quite significantly, so you start feeling lethargic. You won't do little things during the day, like if something's upstairs, you won't bother going and getting it. All of these little lack of actions make up quite a significant chunk. But beyond that, you're just not sticking to the calories. If you're maintaining on 1,400, what's happening is you're either sticking to 1,400 calories for 2-3 days at a time, and then you're going significantly over that, or you're trying your best to stick to 1,400 calories and eating a little bit more in the evening. Or the thing that I see quite often, a person will be struggling to lose weight on 1,800 calories. So they drop their calories to 1,400 calories, but actually they try to undercut that even further. So they'll only track 1,200 calories throughout the day, thinking that they're undercutting and they're going to lose weight faster. And then you think to themselves in the evening, oh, well, I've got 200 calories left, so I'll just have a couple snacks and make that up. They don't track those extra things. They eat 500, 600, 700 calories and then wonder why they haven't lost weight on that amount. Your maintenance is the amount of food that you actually need to eat roughly in order to maintain your weight over a given period of time. And if you are shooting your calories really low and you're maintaining your weight, it's not because of that calorie intake that you're setting your MyFitnessPal is maintenance. It's because the amount that you're actually eating is maintenance. And you need to kind of learn to differentiate that. This is why, like, it was said for a long time on social media that, oh, the idea that you should eat more to lose fat is just ridiculous. That's not how metabolism works. And that is kind of true from a mechanistic perspective. But a lot of the time, if people are shooting really low, if they shoot for a higher number, they'll actually eat less. And so I've had tons of clients who've been scared of the calorie intake that I've given them. They're like, oh, but that's way too much calories. I'm going to gain weight on that. And they actually lose weight. And it's because it's an amount of food that they can actually adhere to for a given period of time that nonetheless creates a deficit. So yeah, I really like that distinction. The thing I wanted to ask you about is you, in your kind of rant there, you mentioned a few times that people need to build a foundation before they can look to really hone in on fat loss or really hone in on performance and stuff like that. I just thought it would be useful for the listeners to know, like, what kind of stuff do you do when you get a new client in? Like, how do you help them build that foundation? Like, what would you recommend people start off with?
Hey, I like this style of podcasting where we chuck questions at each other this way. See, this is the thing. If you currently eat more takeout than not, if you don't cook your meals at home, if you think you eat enough protein, but realistically you don't, you might have 2 eggs for breakfast, which is abysmal for protein. An egg is not high protein. 2 eggs is not high protein. 2 eggs plus avocado, if you think smoked salmon is then super healthy because omega-3, but it's wild caught. And you have that on toast, that's probably a 700, 800 calorie breakfast with probably about 13 to 20 grams. Oh yeah, like the salmon. 20 grams of protein if you're lucky.
Yeah.
If you have like, it's just like fat.
I hear that one a lot. Like, an egg is like 5 grams of protein. So if you're shooting for 30 grams of protein in a meal, you're going to need at least 4 2 bits of wholemeal toast. And so, yeah, like, eggs are a great source of protein, but usually you'll need something else.
It's a great quality protein, but it's shit source of protein. And these are the things that so many clients, so many people who come to us don't understand. And it's like, yeah, but now I'm adding in some cottage cheese here, some Greek yogurt there. And it's like, that is probably still not enough, because the majority of women get most of their protein with dinner. And that's probably about 30 to 50 grams if you're lucky. But they get like 20 to 30 grams in the rest of the day. Maybe they get 50 grams in the rest of the day. Maybe they luckily hit 100. But that, for the most, is undershooting your protein if you really care about body composition goals. So that's one thing. The second thing alludes to something that you mentioned before when it comes to the calories. And Tom and I have our whole podcast on this. If you are hoarding calories for the weekend, but it all equals out, like you're still hitting your calorie target average by the end. You are not hitting your calorie target average by the end, because that deficit or that maintenance is a surplus now, because of the fact that you've now underfueled your performance. You've underfueled when you're most active, the periods of time when you need that energy, when you could perform better, because your metabolism is your muscle and your movement. Which brings me to another point of the foundation phase. If you are not actively trying to get in your steps, you are probably like the majority of Americans, majority of UKians, majority of Australia, who get probably like 2,000 to 5,000 steps in a day. If you're lucky, you get 5,000. It takes effort to make movement a priority. It takes effort to make it part of your lifestyle. If you do not find a way to make it part of your lifestyle, you can lose the weight, but it ain't going to stay off. It's going to find its way back mostly in the form of fat and not muscle. And then there's the identity change. That shit takes time. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, I think on the step thing, part of me wonders sometimes if I'll start from the beginning. So in the fitness industry, we used to talk about cardio for fat loss all the time. And then it wasn't that long ago, people started presenting the evidence-based perspective that cardio doesn't really increase fat loss. It just helps to expend calories, and we don't need to spend all time on the treadmill and blah, 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 blah. And there seems to have been a shift in the fitness industry where people just talk about lifting weights and we don't do cardio. You lift weights and you do steps. And like, I know where that's come from, but if I've got a client who's struggling to hit 10,000 steps, the majority of the time it's because they're short on time. Like 10,000 steps takes about 2 hours to do. And if you've got an inactive job and you've got a busy morning, you've got kids to look after and stuff, you're going to do 2,500 steps by the time you get home. You've then got to train, food prep, get yourself ready for the next day. You aren't going to hit 10,000 steps. And so I found that this complete aversity to doing cardio is really misplaced. And I think a lot of people, if you've got half an hour to get some activity in, I'd rather you went for a run or got on a bike or got on a rowing machine than did steps, if you're happy to do that, because you're going to expend way more calories. And focusing just on 10,000 steps, I think, works off of this assumption that people have got a lot more time than a lot of people have.
I actually want to talk on that part because I have a couple of clients that are pretty much like this as well, and I actually got them to bring out the skipping rope and to do some intervals of skipping and to try to build up those intervals for how long they can take. And the thing is, yeah, it is ideal to try to find ways that you can incorporate more steps. Like you go shopping, you do more aisles. Buy a freaking walking pad. Honestly, buy a walking pad. That, to me, is just like, there are walking pads now. It reduces your excuses. There are lots of people that sit and watch TV. I'm not saying you can't sit and watch TV. I want you to be able to sit down and do nothing after a busy day, running after the kids, doing busy stuff at work. But here comes another thing. I notice this when I'm doing shit that I hate, which is sitting in the car running around like a busy woman thinking that I've done so much shit for the day. I'm just going to relax. Look at my watch and I've done like 8,000 steps. Not even. It's just that I always prioritize my steps. So I would, like, to me, having a really busy day, prioritizing steps, thinking I got 20,000 steps because I've been so busy. No, I get 8,000. Just because you're busy, just because your work is chaotic, does not mean you're getting steps. And if you work from home and you're able to get a desk, or you do calls, or you do something where you can just pace around, you can accumulate little snacks of steps. It doesn't mean going for a walk. But I wanted to come back to this cardio element because I think this is really important. And this is why it's so important to get a coach, because some people are better served prioritizing cardio first. And this does not mean not lifting weights. It means a 50-50 split, because there are people that have such a shit aerobic base that it gets very difficult to build up your training capacity. And also the fact that they're like your mitochondria, aka your metabolism, your metabolic capacity, the better that you get at using fat as fuel, at using oxygen, at breathing, at getting your cardio fitness itself up, the better you are going to be at burning fat through the day, the better you are going to be at handling stress, the better you are going to be at using the fuels you need to use through the day. It's just that because you can't be so specific online with someone picking on something you say and pulling you down for it. That's why this podcast exists. Maybe this should be another topic we talk about. But this is what the foundations are for. And I have a client where I am literally I prioritize cardio with her first. She had 3 days of cardio, 2 days of strength. Blasphemy. But that's what she needed. And she has a lot of fat to lose at the same time. And guess what? Her mobility has increased. Her pains have reduced. She is able to last a whole session in the gym. She isn't burning with lactic acid the same way that she was before. And because I got her to do mobility, weighted mobility, I didn't get her to stretch. She did weighted mobility, like weighted couch stretches and stuff like that, and just couch stretches herself. The first time she done a Bulgarian split squat, I think she's going to listen to this podcast, so I'm going to celebrate her. The first time she did a Bulgarian split squat, the best form I've seen out of people that have been trying to do Bulgarian split squats for ages. And this is what foundations are for, because you cannot build on a rocky base. And I know you put up a post on this, but this is why it's really important to get specific. Yes, effort matters. Yes, intensity matters, but all of that's going to be misplaced if your hips are crook, if you have no overhead mobility and you're trying to do an overhead press and now you're jacking up your lower back. Like, you need to build foundations, but that does not mean you do not push yourself in other things. It just means while you are working on those things, do other things that you can push.
Yeah. Like I'll have clients who really, really struggle with back squats. And so what we'll do is we'll incorporate things like goblet squats, tempo squats, bodyweight squats, things like that at the start of a program, like at the start of the session. And those things won't be that intense. The purpose there is to drill that bottom position. It's to drill the squat pattern. Then we'll go push really hard on a leg press because they can do that. We'll push really hard at Romanian deadlifts because we can do that. And so it is a case of like, understanding what it is that you can push with and understanding the things that you need to work on a little bit more, work on those things, and then push yourself really hard in areas that you can. And you'll find that you'll progress a lot faster. I think that's a lot more of a fun way to do things, like what you've just said there, where you're doing like weighted stretches and things like this. It's it takes away this idea of like, oh, well, for your first couple of weeks of training, it has to be slow and steady and everything's light. That's boring. And I find that a lot of people will push themselves a lot harder if you let them. We just need to then also incorporate some stuff that you need to work on. So yeah, that's what I use warm-ups for a lot of the time.
You just brought up something in my brain, and that's sometimes you might have to start at ground zero and work your way up really freaking slowly, and it might seem really hard, like it's taking forever to see progress, but that's in one area. You might need to start from scratch in one area, but that is the beauty of progress, and that is why there are no distinct phases, because there is always something that we can work on to improve. It's just why I say you're either in fat loss or you are in improving, because regardless of what phase you're in, your training does not change. You may add in some extra cardio and change up your workouts in an effort to improve recovery, to make recovery something that, because you have less fuel, you have less food, you're gonna I feel like people don't understand exactly what happens in a fat loss phase. But recovery is diminished, meaning you probably can get better out of it if you stick to the same program for a longer period of time, because every single time you change up your program, you're now exposing yourself to a new stimulus, and that's taking away from your recovery resources, because now you're getting sore all over again. So I reckon you can benefit a lot more by just pushing as hard as you can on that same program while you're in fat loss, fighting for the reps, fighting to match the logbook. And in doing that, you are progressing your training. Progress is matching your logbook when you're in fat loss. It could even mean regressing sometimes and then pushing forward other times, because you're not going to have great weeks every single time. There are some weeks where I take forever to warm up, and then my first 3 exercises feel like horse shit. And then I get my mojo back halfway through it because now my energy picked up again. That's normal. And I feel like people beat themselves up for for not having perfect performance all the time. And this is the beauty of progress. And this is what coaching is all about. Coaching is not about just getting you from A to B, full stop, go off on your own and figure it out yourself. Maybe in the old days when it was just the comp prep 12-week thing, and then usually clients would end up more fucked up than ever because that's what comp prep does. But these days, there is so much more to coaching. There are so many more tools to use. There's programming in itself to just improve you, to take you to the next level, because that way it is made for you. It is specific. It's accountability. And all of this stuff, without fortifying it, without building habits that you can practice in any situation, how are you going to maintain the results a year down the track when Christmas comes if you've never practiced them around Christmas? Because it's not about being strict in Christmas. It's about managing your mindset and realizing that is still progress. It's about getting sick, not being able to train for 2 weeks, and realizing that doesn't mean your progress is on hold or your coaching is on hold. There's still work to be done. That's probably the best time for you to focus on nutrition and habits. Or if you can't eat, then it's the nutrition habits in terms of planning ahead. What can you do? The all or nothing mindset can now start getting worked on. This is all part of progress.
Oh, 100%. And I think you make a really good point there. Like, there are some things as a coach that you can't really work on until they've happened. And I think injuries and illnesses are 2 things that jump out as obvious examples there. Like, there's a lot of benefit to some people in doing things like a 12-week transformation. Like, they're fine. I don't sell them personally. It's not my style, but I think there's something that people get out of, right, I'm going to pay for 12 weeks of coaching, I'm going to lose a bunch of fat and it'll be grand. But I think in a more ongoing coaching capacity, you can find out about these life events. It's like, right, okay, well, I've hurt my hamstring and I'm not going to be able to train lower body for 3 weeks. Now, because I'm working with a coach, I can work out exactly what I need to do then, what I can do, what I can't do, how we're going to rehab that. And so next time, if I get a hamstring injury, I know what to do. Your Christmas example is perfect. You can't plan around Christmas until Christmas happens. And planning around Christmas typically involves accepting that things are not going to be perfect, and talking to someone who's external to you but who knows a lot about this can make these kinds of things a lot easier. But on a more micro scale, as a classic example, the idea that you're not going to progress every workout is fine to understand in the abstract until you go to a session and your warm-ups from last week feel heavy. And then it feels very different to this abstract idea that you've kind of sort of accepted. So a classic example, last week I had one of my best weeks in deadlifting for ages. My deficit deadlifts, I pulled like 210, 220 for triples, and then I hit a deadlift 1 rep for 250 on Friday, which I'm really pleased with. Like, my body weight's not particularly high. That's like a reasonable lift for my weight. Then I had a client competing on Saturday, which was really stressful. Then Sunday was quite stressful, and I had about 8 hours of making presentation slides. So my externals over the weekend were horrendous. I've come into deadlift today, and I've had to take 40 kilos off the bar for my weight for my working sets. But because I've been in the game for that long, I understand why that is, and I'm chill about it. I've had a lot of clients who have smaller setbacks than that, and it's not even really setback, but a smaller setback than that. And they panic, and it's really useful to have a coach there so that you've got someone to message you about, look, this session's going shit, and for them to be able to remind you why that is. And I think after the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th time you get that reminder, it actually starts to become the norm, and it starts to become something that's easier to just sort of brush off and get by. And like, I don't judge people for that. Like, I've been doing this for a really long time. I still get pissed off when I go in and my warm-ups feel heavy, but you need to learn to come to terms with it. And ongoing coaching can be a very useful tool for helping with that, I think.
I'm going to read this message one of my clients said to me before, because it's important. She's like, I will do this tomorrow. I understand more and more now that it's so easy to say, I will do this, but I have to meet myself where I'm at. And I know a lot of the time I don't prepare for the difficult days. And this is a constant thing, but this is where a lot of people would pull the plug and say, what's the whole point if I can't stick to my plan or do this, do that? It's like, but that's the point. You're becoming more and more aware. And if you weren't going through this process, you will still be back where you were before. But now we're finding strategies to get you to where you want to be. And it is so easy for people to say, I will do this, I will do that, but then life happens. How about you break things down? How are you going to make sure it happens? For her, she's buying a rotisserie chicken, as an example, every single week. So there is no excuse for her not to get in protein with every meal. We are literally just focusing on protein and plants with every meal. She'll want to do more. No, just protein and plants. We need to nail this habit. Make sure that it happens. And then what happens on the difficult days? What are you going to go to? Plan ahead for that. If you're not going to plan ahead for when your usual trip ups happen, you're going to keep falling back into the same old patterns. And it's these default patterns that we are working through with you as a coach. Like Tom, me, we both have clients that have been with us for over, I'm guessing, over 5 years with you as well. 3 years, 5 years.
I think my longest standing client's been with me about 11 years.
There we go. So my longest client has been with me for 7 years. And this is the thing, like, our quote unquote best performing clients are the ones that have been with us for at least 3 years. Would you agree?
Yeah, unless they're already some kind of freak. Like you get that. But yeah, generally speaking, it's the people that have been with it for the long haul.
And yet people are saying, how long is this meant to last for? How long do people typically stay? How long does it typically take people? And like, that's the thing, like, coaching isn't just a one and done, although you can easily learn the habits, but I would say never give it less than a year, because within a year you would have had a majority of shit happen to learn through it. You would have had a Christmas, you would have had a Halloween, you would have had an Easter. You would have had something to learn the habits through.
And I think the way you conceptualized it before we hit record was a really good way of looking at it. Coaching back in the day used to be a case that you hire someone for 12, 16 weeks, they help you lose fat, and then you're done. Or you join a boot camp where there's not really an end goal. And that was kind of the two kinds of coaching for like the general public. But what we need to remember is that like that kind of coaching where you join a process, you learn a bunch of stuff, and then you can go and do that stuff by yourself. That is only one kind of coaching. And if people want that, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to criticize people who are like, I want to do this for 12 weeks. Like, fair. I'm not the coach for you, but fair enough. But like, Usain Bolt has a coach. The best athletes in the world have a coach. Professional football teams where they've got people making hundreds of £1,000s a week, they've got multiple coaches working with that team. And the reason is, if you're looking to perform at a high level, you need this like second opinion, you need this oversight, and you need someone to take the second guessing away from you. I tend to find that my highest performing athletes are the ones who are in a lot of ways the most self-critical. They've got very, very high standards for themselves. And if you take a powerlifter, a paddleboard racer, I've got a lot of different people who compete in a lot of different things. They are the ones who panic the most when they have 3 bad weeks in a row. And that's where coaching can really come in. And I think if you can view coaching as this like ongoing investment that makes your life better and easier, rather than a source of a specific result or a source of specific education, I think you'll often get more out of coaching. And again, if that's not what you want, that's fine. But that's broadly what a lot of coaches are able to provide. And so I don't have a coach right now. This is the first time I haven't been coached in easily 10 years, and I will be signing up with another coach in the next month, I would have thought, just because I hate doing my own programming. I second guess myself. I turn up to the gym with a plan, and if the first exercise doesn't go very well, I'm very tempted to change the plan. Whereas if I've got a coach, I've got that accountability. I don't do that, and I know that that's what I need as an athlete. And I think the same is true of like nutrition. If you've got that accountability, you don't slip into old lazy habits. It's not a case of just knowing what you need to do. I think a lot of the time it's a case of having an external person to watch you there. And if you've got high expectations for yourself, if you've got high standards for yourself, it is just one of the best things you can invest in to facilitate. And I recognize that sounds like a sales pitch. I am a coach, but it's true anyway.
I've been ramping on about this in I don't know whether you watch my stories, but I've been ramping on about this in my stories for the last few weeks, because I'm seeing more and more now that there is nothing more powerful than having a coach guide you there. Because people say, I don't have time for this, or when there's time, or I'm too busy for this, things are too chaotic, I can't get my shit together, wait till I get my shit together. But it's just like, coaches are here to save you that time, because you're trying to figure out what program to do, trying to look up all this information online, looking here, looking there, wondering, like, you're wasting so much stress and energy and focus that's better served to you doing what you do best, where you could actually be making more money, because now you're going further in your career. You make better relationships because now you're able to put more time into that. You have more confidence there. You're showing up better because you have a plan to show up for yourself. You're not second guessing things, and you're not wasting money on every second supplement that pops itself up. And women, menopause. What you do now matters more than anything. And a lot of people come to me when they're 50, 55. I have a lot of clients over 45, a lot over 50, and they wish they started earlier. Some of them, we were in cahoots back and forth for weeks, a couple for months, before they finally bit the bullet and signed up and wish they did it earlier. And it happens all the freaking time. And I'm like, I wish I could just bubble this conversation up and shove it out to the internet so everyone can see it. Because if this is not the majority of people, wishing they could have started earlier. But this is the beauty of coaching. We take the guesswork out. And I understand a lot of people don't have the finance for it, especially in today's world, but there are people out there that have their coaching packages at an affordable rate. Or if you buy, like, if you have the courage to have a true, honest discussion with them about what you need, see if they can accommodate you on a lower plan where you're not checking in every week. Like, granted, if you want your best results, that's probably the best way to go. If they have a plan where you can do monthly calls with them, you'll get your results further, and you can always downgrade when you're ready. Like I always say, start off with as many touch points as you can, and then see if you can downgrade to weekly touch points from there. If you can do weekly plus calls, brilliant. Otherwise, go back down to weekly. But most coaches only have the one offer. But I try to keep shit affordable because, and Tom does as well. Tom tries to keep shit affordable because we see the value in coaching. He hasn't inflated his prices either. And I haven't inflated mine in the last 3 years for the same reason.
Yeah, like for me, online coaching shouldn't be a super premium thing. I think face-to-face coaching should. I think face-to-face coaching should be expensive. You're taking a lot of time and expertise for a person that spent a lot of money on the development. I think online coaching should be the affordable option. For a variety of reasons to do with like my upbringing and such. But yeah, I don't think it should be a huge financial stress. And I also think it should be something that you should be able to invest in for 3-5 years.
Yeah.
Without that being like a really scary prospect. Like, I know you work in Australian dollars, and I'm horrendous at knowing what the exchange rate is, but there are some coaches in the UK charging like £275 a month, and it's I don't understand how you justify that. Like, I couldn't pay that for multiple years. Like, that's just silly in my experience. That'll be in the region of, I think it's about $500 a month, something like that.
Yeah.
And
There
in
are,
the UK,
yeah.
yeah,
You
and
really
in the
need
UK economy, that's just, it's batshit. It doesn't work. But also, there are coaches charging £50 a month, and I think that's silly as well. But there you go. But yeah, no, I think we've covered everything that I wanted to there. I think we've made our point quite well.
There is one thing that I really think is important before we tie
Yep.
out, and that's your identity matters. And you mentioned it before in terms of getting a coach is just like me as an athlete, and you called yourself an athlete. And it's like, we're not competitive, but we see ourselves as athletes. And it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, whether you feel like you're there in quotation marks or not. If you can see yourself as an athlete, you'll start to form your habits around that. You'll start to think in terms of, what would my fittest version of myself do? What would they do? How? And there's this habit thing that I feel is really powerful in the moments that you don't feel like showing up for yourself, in that, how would tomorrow Ruby, what would tomorrow Ruby need from the now Ruby right now in order to feel like she has some control over the day, to make it a better day? If it means I need to pre-prep my breakfast, I will do that. If it means I need to make sure that I go for my nighttime walk so that I'm not going to bed stressed out and waking up with horrendous sleep quality, then that needs to happen as well. It's just like, sometimes when you're tired, sometimes when you're feeling low on energy, getting movement and getting a walk is probably the best thing you can do, because it creates energy for most people. It makes you feel more calm. Sometimes, actually, every single time that I pushed myself for a walk here, not back in Sydney. Back in Sydney, I still felt shit regardless. I'm sorry, but I just hated where I lived. But because I'm in this new environment, regardless of how I felt before going for a walk at night, when I went for my walk at night, I always felt more relaxed before going to sleep. And that is something I want you to pay attention to. How do things make you feel, and how can you do more of the things that make you feel good? And I'm going to leave you with the same question as I did on the last podcast. I'm going to let Tom throw it to you as well. But for me, my question and my point for ponderance is, what would the best version of yourself be doing on a day-to-day basis? And how would they handle their weekends? Granted that perfection doesn't exist and you're a human. Do not expect your weekends to look robotic, but you need to have them in line with the action that you want to put, like the direction that you want to head in. What would that ideal you be doing on a weekend? Realistically. Answer that question. Your turn.
Yeah, I think if you find that question difficult to connect with, or difficult to imagine, because it kind of requires you to project an ideal self, and like, I think it's a great question. I have asked people that, and they're like, I don't know what the ideal self looks like. I think a slightly different way to look at it is just, what will you be grateful for tomorrow? And I think that goes in a lot of different directions. So, for instance, how can you behave in a way that you'll be grateful for tomorrow if you are going to go for an all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet, which is like a big thing in the UK? Because the answer is probably not. Because the answer is probably not, I'm going to go and just eat lean chicken and vegetables. You're probably not going to be grateful for that, because you'll be like, well, I've missed out on the opportunity. But you're also not going to be grateful for eating like 8 plates of food. Similarly, you're going to go on holiday. Behave on holiday in a way that you'll be grateful that you behaved when you get home. That's not, I'm not going to drink any alcohol if you drink. I'm going to eat salads every day, and I'm going to make sure I do 25,000 steps. I'm going to find a gym, and I'm going to keep up with my program. Like, you're probably not going to be grateful for that, because you want to be on holiday. But you're also not going to be grateful for waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning and starting drinking Bloody Marys. Like there's a place in between those that everyone is going to feel will suit them. And I think if you can start living your life in a way that revolves around that kind of question, it allows you to live in a more dynamic and less all or nothing manner while still achieving the goals that you kind of want.
And going off what I said before as well, it is going to take time. Expect yourself to meet yourself where you're at and just make the goal to make every weekend just a little bit better. And if you're just going to say, oh, I fucked up, I'm just going to fresh start on Monday. That's seen as a heroic thing these days, just being able to start fresh and not sabotage yourself. But I still think it's stupid because you're not learning from it. You need to actually sit with what the hell you did. Like actually sit with it. So then you can learn on it and improve for next time, because otherwise you're never going to improve. You don't improve from mistakes that you haven't sat with to understand what went wrong. Mistakes are your greatest teacher if you allow them to be. And that's why I love failure. So keep that in mind. The only goal is to be moving forward in some way. You're not going to be perfect the first time, but accumulate the months, and very soon your weekend will move closer in line with your ideal self. And soon you'll be able to understand what makes you feel good and do more of those things, and then visualize the way that I mentioned, because I do love what Tom said. I feel like this is such a great podcast. Don't you agree?
It's been good. It's been a good one.
I feel like I need to include our shit talk at the start, but just crop it out and shove it at the end, because I feel like we just talk good shit, just randomly blubbering on about shit. How's your training going?
My training's going quite well. I'm on track to hit a deadlift PB next year, which sounds like a really stupid thing to say, but
I was just going to say that's actually the point of this podcast.
I had resigned myself to never hitting another deadlift PB, so I deadlifted. So I hit 275 maybe 7 years ago, and after that week, where I was fully overtrained, the following week I went in, I couldn't pick 180 off the floor, and I've never, like, over the next few months, I lost maybe 10 kilos of weight. Like it was bad. Burning the candle at two ends, training way too much, using caffeine to get through it. But I had a competition to be at, and I was determined not to give up, despite the fact I had a lot of externals that I should have been managing better. But yeah, so pulling 250 last week at about an RP9 felt pretty good. How's your training going?
I actually feel like if you guys like this type of stuff to end each of our podcasts, we might do a little catch up at the end of our podcast each time we've been listening to our thing, because what Tom just said is powerful. This is a reality of progress. It comes a lot slower the more advanced you are. My training is, well, it kind of is what a lot of you need to hear. It's fighting to keep the same reps now. I'm on week 6. I improved most of my lifts every single week for the last 5 weeks. And granted, the first 2 weeks were really shit, up and down, psycho, because I didn't have my belt. I didn't have my straps, and I was using some dodgy straps, and I didn't have my knee sleeves. So things were up and down, but I was still progressing here, there, forwards. But now I'm on week 6, it's fighting for progress. And this is usually where people get bored. They think that it's not working anymore because progress has plateaued. But this is where true change happens. You're fighting for it. This is where you're showing what you have in the tank. And that's why I like to say 8 weeks is a great place as a minimum for your programs, but you still want some key lifts to stay in there for months and months on end. So yeah, I did progress my leg press. So things are kind of tracking along super slow. Squats felt hard, but funnily enough, you'll be surprised by this if you haven't watched my stories, Mr. Tom. I hated hack squats, and I said that I'll never do a pendulum squat in my life. I actually don't mind the pendulum squat. Like, you're not going to
I really like a pendulum squat. I hate hack squats. Hack squats feel like a knee removal machine. But yeah, hack squats I do enjoy.
You mean pendulum?
Sorry, yeah, no. Hack squats I hate, pendulum squats I do enjoy.
Yeah, I actually didn't mind the pendulum. It just feels more comfortable holding onto something in front. But the most exciting thing about my training actually is the fact that I'm running and I'm almost back to my prior performance in my minutes per kilometer. So I got 430 kilometers per minute, I think is what it comes to. 430 kilometers per minute on one of my latest runs as my fastest kilometer that I did, because I tend to do negative splits, which is where I start off really slow and then I somehow pick up the pace and end faster than I started. And I don't know, it's just, I don't like setting goals for my training. Like I mentioned on the last podcast, I want to enjoy it. I don't want to have the pressure there. All I know is that I'm heading forward with, I want to get stronger in squats and I want to build a juicy ass and I want an X physique. So I just have my actions in line with that. And I just need to show up and put in the reps. I don't want pressure. And I don't want to feel like it's a chore in the gym. I want to enjoy it. So I'm just moving in the direction, focusing on the habits, focusing on each rep. All I need to do is push that last rep where I'm about to give up. Let's just try one more. Okay, let's try one more. One more. Oh, you got one more. Like that feels fucking awesome when you push beyond what you thought. Maybe you take a few breathers and then push an extra. It still counts. But with running, I want to set goals there because I love it. It's just like I want to be able to do a 10K day and a 30-minute day. But if you're listening to this, I really want you guys to realize that that isn't a great thing to do if you're in a diet, because you will lose muscle. You want to fuel your training. If you're doing higher levels of cardio, even if I'm just doing 2 days, you need to be at least in the higher end of maintenance and you need to be fueling it, not doing faster training. You need to be eating high amounts of carbs, not doing this stupid keto bullshit fuckery. You need to eat like an athlete and recover like an athlete. So let us know if you like this little rant at the end, because we might actually plan for it next time so we can a little bit more. But Tom's going to set himself up for some deadlift PBs. I'm going to get myself closer to running 10K. I got 6 point something the other day. I'm getting there. But yeah, we'll see how long I can run 10K for once I get myself up there, eh?
You'll be fine.
I love it. It just feels amazing at the end, because I hate the idea of going for a run. As soon as I start running, I feel amazing. Anyway, that's it.